Is there some kind of change you've been meaning to make in your life and you just keep putting it off? You think, why have I not made this change? Today, we're going to find out why and how you can change it. I'm Dr. Scott Greenaway, and today's episode is called Psychology Works on Our Behaviors. Today, we're going to be talking about how to make that behavioral change. Primarily, we're focusing on things that we wished we would stop doing. Usually it falls into one of a few categories. It's either going to be stopping the drinking, stopping the smoking, stopping eating the foods that we know are going to do us harm. Could be stopping hanging around a person or going to a particular place that we wished we didn't want to do this activity, but we also want to do it because there is some kind of immediate payoff. We've talked in the past about this model here, where our thoughts and our ideas directly contribute to our emotions. So if you're thinking about something in a particular way, it can make you depressed. But if you change how you're thinking about it, it can help that depression alleviate, or it works with anxiety. And of course, it goes the other way too, where if you are in a particular mood state, it's going to affect how you're thinking. But the one we want to talk about today is this one. Our thoughts also affect how we behave. And then the way we behave affects our thoughts. Let's think about that for a second. Let's take Sheila. Sheila goes to a restaurant, and after she's done eating, she has this natural kind of an urge, we'll call it, this proclivity to go out and smoke. She doesn't want to smoke. She wishes she could quit smoking, but there's something in her thoughts, something in her ideas, her philosophies that gets her to smoke. And here's what it is. She may be thinking something like, I'm the kind of person who smokes. The kind of people who smoke like me, and I like them. And I'm not one of these people who have their act together, and the non-smokers, they're a different breed of people. And I want to be one of the cool kids, one of the smokers. So I'm going to go out and smoke. And of course, she's getting the nicotine and she's liking that. And she's, has that physical addiction to nicotine that's there. But part of what keeps her from really suffering through the nicotine withdrawal is this idea of what it means. So it's our thoughts, it's our ideas. What does it mean when she's having a cigarette? How does she see herself? How does she see the other people that she might be having a cigarette with? And also, how does she think she's being perceived by other people? She may have the thought, oh, I'm looking cool. This is the way I get my social acceptance from the people who I want to accept me. And Sheila may have no idea that this is happening in the background of her brain. All she's thinking is, I know I should quit smoking, but I'm going to go have a cigarette. Now, let's say in therapy, we analyze a situation. So maybe I would talk to Sheila and ask her, when you were going out there to have that cigarette, what was going through your head? What were you thinking? What was the meaning of the situation? And then some of the questions I would ask are, what does this situation say about me? That's number one. Number two, what does this situation say about how other people perceive me, or how do they view me? How do they think of me? That's all kind of the same thing. What does this situation say about them, either the other person or the other people in the situation? And if you really think about those questions in the situation where you're doing the very thing that you think at other times that you want to stop, you want to write down those answers, and then we'll start to see why our mental set, our schemas, our worldview, our belief system, there's so many words for this. Every author who writes a book about it comes up with a different term and claims that they've figured out the secret to stopping these things. This could be for smoking. It could be for drinking too much. What does it mean to have a shot of whiskey? What does it mean to be a guy who drinks Black Label? I was on this kick for a while where I was watching these old movies, these old tough guy, rugged movies, Clint Eastwood movies. And there was one, Clint Eastwood's not in this one, but it's The Magnificent Seven. And in that movie, it's these seven tough, hard cowboys. And They sat down, and in this film, they're drinking Black Label. And interestingly enough, this bottle looked exactly like the bottles of Black Label that you see on the shelf today. The label's the same, and they're having that. And I thought, that's what tough guys drink, Black Label. Next time I was at the grocery store, I got me a bottle of Black Label. That's just an example of the meaning that we put to something, then that's going to affect how we act. If you would like to help the channel, I ask you, please click like, subscribe if you want to see more content. Let's talk about someone who wants to eat healthy. There's a piece of fried chicken, or there's a tofu. This person might think to themselves, tofu, that's for weak-minded, tree hugging. This mentality of a person who eats tofu is this certain type of person, and I don't want to be like that type of person. I'm the kind of guy who eats a big greasy pork sandwich because that means that you're a cool guy. But these thoughts we have are just made up. They're just ideas that we've become acculturated to, either watching films, watching TV, what things our parents said growing up, part of our culture. That influences the meaning that we put to some of these behaviors. So if we want to stop doing the behavior, we're going to have to be able to still see ourselves in the light that we want to, and at the same time, be the kind of person who doesn't do that behavior. For example, Sheila is going to think of herself as a person who does have their act together. A person who, even people who smoke and cool kids and the tough guys or the tough girls or whatever it is, are still going to like her, or she's going to see the ridiculous of it, because, by the way, Sheila is like 35 years old. So this cool kid thing is still stuck in her head from back in high school. But the more she analyzes it and writes it down and looks at it and thinks about it, she's going to think, who are these cool kids? I'm not at the cafeteria at the lunch table anymore. The other thing is, we want to think of ourselves as a person who doesn't do that behavior. So, for example, the person who smokes would think of themselves as a non-smoker who happened to have a period of time where they smoked, but deep down they're a non-smoker. Or I'm a person who doesn't smoke. I'm a person who doesn't eat donuts. I'm the kind of person who drinks responsibly. I don't eat fried chicken. I eat whole grains. Whatever it is, you want to come up with the behavior that you want to see yourself doing when you're in your sane mind, when we are being logical, rational, and we can see that drinking Black Label really does not make me any cooler. Well, maybe a little bit cooler, but not cool enough that I'm going to down the whole bottle. Something where you can have fun with some of these things and keep it in moderation. I always like to leave the viewers with some kind of a task that you're going to do when you turn off this video. You're going to continue the helpful activity. You're going to continue the cure on your own. Think to yourself, what is the behavior I want to stop doing? Come up with what is the positive opposite of that. So obviously, if it's I want to stop smoking, what am I going to do instead? I'm going to stay inside with the non-smokers instead of going outside. I'm going to choose the whole grain almond butter toast instead of the donut. Look at how you're thinking about it. Try to dispel some of these false notions that you have of what it means, and then make note of the behavior change. Like, notice it, be aware of it. And it would be common for a person to do this and then chalk it up to, well, it wasn't really the thinking about it differently or coming up with the positive opposite behavior that did it. I just had the willpower to do it. Seriously, if there's a correlation between doing the strategy I'm telling you and the reduction in the behavior that you want to stop, give me a little credit here. Throw me a bone. Anyway, this is Dr. Scott Greenaway saying, remember, psychology works on behaviors.